Hello and good morning, at least Austrian time. Good morning to the Ars Electronica Center, to our first ever this year presentation of this year's Ars Electronica Festival topic, theme, strategy, locations. And I'm happy that I can do this again with Veronika and Christl. They will do the parts about the program later. And my work now is, or my attempt is, to introduce you a little bit why did we choose this wonderful and exciting topic, panic, yes or no, this year for the festival. And actually, I would usually start now with one of the most well-known songs of Bob Dylan. I don't dare to sing it because I think everybody has anyway the melody in mind, a song that he performed for the first time in 1963 with this wonderful verse that I think is really so exciting because it could be just have written today. It's this verse goes, "Come gather round people wherever you roam and admit that the waters around you have grown." And I think most of you, probably at least the older generation, have this song anyway in mind. And it's really interesting because when this song was written, there was not much discussion about climate change, and that the water around us would grow was more or less a kind of metaphoric thing, and that we would have to start to learn swimming, to not sink like a stone, to be able to adapt to the changes, to cope with the changes, was also in a very different mood or in a very different context, because it was the time when the civil rights movement in the United States was absolutely on its top. This legendary march on Washington with Martin Luther King and the "I Have a Dream" became icons of this period after World War II, as also the "Ich bin ein Berliner" that John F. Kennedy tried, to speak his commitment, his support to Germany, in particular to occupied Western Berlin in a German language. And both, I think, symbolize approach and the idea of what disruption, of what transformation, of what revolution could mean. On the one side, the civil rights movement, the opening up of our societies, and on the other side, a United States that had really achieved in these times of the Cold War to gain the main power position, not so much as imperialists after this huge war, this terrible war, but as a new kind of hegemonical leadership. And I think this "Ich bin ein Berliner," this message that John F. Kennedy gave, is very strong a symbol for this new idea that world leadership would not mean to occupy and dominate everything in the classical hierarchical way, but it would be a kind of leadership, it would be a kind of support. And of course, I think here in Europe, in particular also in Austria, everybody who was at this time already here knows how important this support was to regain not only an economic position, but also to regain, so to say, or get a kind of entrance in what was called the free way. The American way of life was also the symbol for a new era of freedom. It was a very clear message of progress, very much also economic and technological progress. Future were all words that were predominantly seen as very positive, as something that you can create. You have to create it sometimes with resistance, with fighting for your rights, as we in particular see in Bob Dylan's song. Of course, this was not the full reality of the Cold War time. Something like the Vietnam War also became one of these terrible and tragic icons of a new way of how a global power like the United States would, how far they would go to really make sure that their idea of leadership would happen everywhere. And it was somehow, when you look at this time from our perspective, wonderful, because it was just, going on one step after the next. So the free world became free, democratic, economically growing. And then finally in 1989 also the people beyond the wall in the former Eastern Europe, in the Soviet Union, marched to the streets. And finally, with the fall of the Berlin Wall, also the Soviet Union collapsed. And a very important point at this period of time, of course, is this breakthrough, not only of the idea of freedom as the cultural icon of the American way of life, but of course also as the borderless development and march to the top of the Western type, the US coined Western type of capitalism. Of course, it was very much also a cultural phenomenon, and it's of course something that I think we all know, but probably nothing more than the Hollywood film industry really contributed to this victory of, again, this lifestyle, this way of seeing the world, and of course also the leadership of so-called US American values to make sure they would become universal values. And it was a time where for many people, for very good reason, this really seemed, so convincible. I mean, freedom, democracy, economic growth, unstoppable. And it's also interesting when we look now at all these crazy, aggressive, erratic activities of the Trump administration, that of course also very early on in the United States, they understood how important this cultural hegemonial development was. And already in 1934, they passed a law that for Hollywood industry, that the United States or any allegory of it must be portrayed in a respectful manner. Under no circumstances should criminals attract sympathy. I mean, this sounds somehow very much like the rhetoric that we're getting from the Trump administration. But also in 1964, and we are back to the times of Bob Dylan, the Civil Rights Act brought also diversity to the screen, to the Hollywood industry, by establishing quotas for actors of different skin colors. It's also, I think, interesting and remarkable how long this is already established, at least formally, and how difficult it has been in all these years, almost 60 years since then, to really establish it as a common, unquestioned reality. Of course, what happened with this is also globalization. Globalization that we all know in terms of the really enormous and intense networking of all our digital infrastructure that made the whole world into a global village. Or so again, the future visions of the people who dreamed about the global village in the late 80s and early 90s has turned out very differently, but it is a physical and in particular also a commercial reality of our time. What we never must, of course, ignore is that this globalization didn't change anything when it comes to the distribution of wealth, when it comes to who are the winners and losers of this development. So it was not a big surprise, of course, that since quite a while we have a growing resistance also against this globalization that was in particular driven by economic liberation, by a new order of the financial markets, and again, of course, very much by cultural icons. And something which is quite interesting when we look at this period of globalization, in particular going back like to the fall of the Berlin Wall and the collapse of the Soviet Union. This was 1991 when the Soviet Union, so to say, collapsed. And already in 1992, the Harvard Business Review brought a very interesting article about the American decline. So at the top of the global power of the United States, they already recognized that maybe they have overseen a few things. That globalization, endless liberation of the markets, intense digital network communication infrastructure would make it, let's put it simple, much more difficult to rule the world, to lead the world. And I think something that we are seeing right now, and this is of course just one way to look at the situation in the United States and what is going on, this Trump administration activities that we just cannot, I mean, it's impossible really to comprehend it. It's beyond any kind of rational logic, economic, political, diplomatic logic that we have known so far. But maybe it is nothing else than a panic reaction against this, what since more than 30 years now is called very often the American decline. The upcoming of new geopolitical powers like China, and of course the upcoming of completely new technological realities that have gone so far that we might no longer be able to control it. And the interesting thing with panic is it's not just anxiety in front of something that is dangerous. It comes up in this moment when you recognize that you might have lost already, that there is no way out, that you are exposed to dangers and threats in a way that you can no longer control. And this is the moment when anxiety changes to panic. And I think it's very interesting to look at this as panic as a way to describe on the one side, to say as the subjects of this development, of these measurements of super powerful governments and large economic corporations. How do we respond to it when we recognize this is growing above our head? But also maybe that the main driving force behind this irrationality is again a kind of hysteria that is based on this notion that it's unavoidable and the moment when anxiety becomes panic. I think the same thing is absolutely true for everything we are discussing right now about AI. It's really a phenomenal thing. Everybody agrees that AI is the most powerful tool and development ever, and everybody agrees that AI will change everything. Everybody says, yeah, because AI is already part of our life. And we talk about AI that is so rudimentary, that is such a simple, stupid tool. I mean, whenever you work with a chatbot, it doesn't take more than a few minutes, no matter which system you have, and you recognize the limitness, and you recognize how difficult it still will be to really go to this point where all these future predictions and expectations of AI really will come true. But nevertheless, already the rhetoric, this hysteria, this hysterical reaction and discussion about it is going to have a deep change and a deep impact. And there are many wonderful phenomena to discuss this, because also what's behind this idea of the Trump administration that suddenly, occupy Gaza and transfer it into the Riviera of the Middle East, the idea to occupy Greenland, Canada, and all the other countries. Isn't it an interesting reaction that in a time where we have global integration, networking and interdependence, in particular in economic ways, as we never had before, ever in human history, that instead of dealing with the possibilities and the also, of course, threats of this borderless globalization, we start to talk now again about physical territory. I want to occupy this square meters, square kilometers of this country. And in Europe, suddenly we think, oh my God, European Union, this is too large. We have to go back to smaller compounds and smaller limits. So I'm totally sure this is just another symptom of this agony of world powers and world order breaking and disrupting and probably ending. And this is, of course, super interesting. So what are the things we are afraid of? And when we come back to AI as, besides the geopolitical area, as one of the fields and topics where we mostly talk about anxieties. I mean, it's also interesting. There are many more articles in news magazines, in blogs, in television about what we should be afraid of AI, than actually really meaningful predictions and scenarios about the future. And I like these two quotes or these two examples. So I think people will be regarded more as statistics than actual people. Or somebody else said, I don't think it's going to be so nice. All machines everywhere doing everything for you. You might get bored. And this really could be, when I go out of the street here in front of the Ars Electronica Center, I'm pretty sure these are also examples for the most popular answers that you would get. The nice thing with this is, and I hope I have to switch on the sound right now.
I think it'll be people will be regarded more as statistics than as actual people.
I don't think it's going to be so nice. I think sort of all machines everywhere, everyone doing everything for you. You'll get all bored, and I don't think it'll be so nice.
So you see, this was 1966 already. And the interesting thing with this, of course, is looking back 60 years into history, how much has changed, and then again, how much didn't change. So I think in all our anxiety and panic about disruption and transformation, this is something we also might have in mind. Sorry, this is a German slide, but it's very easy. It just says that in Austria, our latest development in terms of how to tackle digital transformation, revolution, and the future of AI is that in schools now it is banned to use smartphones. So the kids have to give away the smartphones in the morning. This might be a very meaningful thing in many ways. I don't want to discuss it. The reason why I show this is just when we look.
Some schools offer glimpses of what the future of high-tech education in the country might look like.
Good job!
Classrooms have robots that analyze students' health and engagement levels. Students wear uniforms with chips that track their locations. There are even surveillance cameras that monitor how often students check their phones or yawn during classes.
And I think it's just another interesting example of how different we are approaching the threats, the realities of our time, and why probably for so many people this is connected with anxiety. And this leads to almost panic-like reaction, because just as one example, and it's a very unidirectional example, I know it, but for somebody growing up in a country where we just decided to ban handys in schools, it is really something that is creating anxiety, and it is threatening to see how dynamic, and somebody might say, how headless, hysteria again, these things are going on in other areas of our world. And of course, there is a reality behind this hype, hysteria, panic reaction around AI, just seeing the development. This is the number of patents in the recent years, how it has increased. And I think this one is in particular interesting because it shows this is the number of patents filed by China compared to the United States and the European Union. So if we are talking about the change, if you're talking about this Pacific turn, if we talk about how China is really threatening the power position of the United States, this is some real data. In the same way as, of course, this again, it just smells like hysteria all the way along, how now in the United States money is poured into this new industry, and in particular private investment. And when you see here private investment of the United States versus China, this is really incredible. Incredible, I think, is also that we are used to see this AI revolution as something that totally depends on a few US-American big corporations, and maybe then with DeepSeek, now we have also China as a player in this. But 2/3 of the new language models that have been developed in recent years are open source. And of course, they are not the most powerful, not the most elaborate, because it's a money issue. But it shows that there are definitely other dimensions as well. And you can get all this wonderful information very easy on your own. Just go to this really great report of the Stanford University. And they have this very nice tool also, what they call the AI vibrancy ranking. And this is now, of course, more for Austria, that actually I was surprised that Austria, when we go to the per capita ranking, is even on place 18 in the global AI vibrancy. I don't have the feeling actually living and working here in Austria. AI vibrancy is a very elaborate scheme and model to analyze all the different trends, of course, investment, research and development, but also public attention of the government. And in this wonderful tool from the Stanford University, you can choose which elements or which aspects and strategies you want to look at predominantly. And when you go responsibility, education, policy and governance, and you go this 100% and the rest 0%, then suddenly you see it's no longer US and China. It's suddenly Luxembourg, Singapore, Ireland, all the European countries that are leading the pack. When you go to regulation issues just on its own, also interesting, United Kingdom is on top of it. So you clearly see here a different position of the European countries. When you go back to research and development, the investments, we are back to what we know, how we see it, United States, China, India. But even for the Europeans among us, when you look below India, and when we just would add all the numbers of each individual European country to one European dimension, then we still are very competitive in this global race for the future of AI, and it would be another reason not to have too much panic about it. Also, when it's about skill penetration, it's very interesting. Germany is ranked on 3rd position already, and of course the whole interesting thing is coming back to this question of power play in our global scenery. It transforms again from the very big question, who owns the data, of course, to who owns the truth, and definitely who is control. I think this is maybe one of the images, if we think about, why shouldn't we maybe panic already for a while? Why should we be afraid more than just concerned? Then maybe this is the image that shows it in the most significant way. And it's like it's one of the icons of our time that really displays what is going on in our world. Of course, the question remains, will this go on? Because panic, again, as a phenomenon of react, is always the expectation that the threat of the moment will not only continue, but will increase. Threat will come closer, it will be more intense. And of course, all the future predictions that we are talking here are thinking, okay, it will go on the same way as it has been so far. But of course, one of the major questions, besides still the open question whether this really AI systems really will pay off all the investment that is made, is of course the issue of energy consumption. And these are some very interesting data about the amount of energy that is needed to train these language models. The top dotted line is the average lifetime, including fuel, CO2 emission of a car in the United States. Nevertheless, without new technologies and without a new approach to new technologies, we won't be able to solve our biggest problems, to solve the war, the fight that is really ahead of us, and this is the fight against the consequences of the climate change. So many good reasons to be afraid of, but I think it's always good to keep in mind we are not talking about a match, a battle, a war, a fight of man against machine. It's always us humans. We decide what we are doing. And this is an iconic image for me as well. You probably all know it. This was, I think, 2016 when Kei was the first Go world champion who didn't have any chance anymore to win against the big AI-driven computers of AlphaGo. And usually this image is used to say, okay, the battle of man against machine is lost. But I think it's worth to really look at this, that Kei didn't lose against the computer. He didn't lose against the machine. He just lost against thousands of super experts in computer science. He lost again one of the most powerful and richest company that was able to build this technology, to create this technology. And many scenarios of the future don't really predict that this reality of always the humans being the ones who have to do the work are really going to change. But the interesting thing is there are examples, and this is the conclusion for my introduction today. What does this have to do with art? Ars Electronica 2025 is a festival about the status quo of our time. But not a status quo that we see as the end position, the terminal station of humanity, of society, but the point of departure for regaining our power, our control of the future. It is us as humans who have the power and who have to take up this power. And it's always just a small decision. And artists and art projects like the one that got the prize a few years ago already at Ars Electronica is still one of the best examples. This is a robot cafe in Tokyo. But the robots that serve the coffee are controlled and operated by real humans who, for certain reasons, because they are sick or other reasons, cannot leave their homes, cannot participate in society, cannot participate in the work life. So it's always up to us to decide whether we use this technology to replace humans, whether we use this technology to reduce the possibilities of humans, or whether we go into a different direction and whether we use it to empower humans. And I think this is the very important part of role. So Ars Electronica has a festival that will deal about the possibilities and the responsibilities of artistic work and artistic impact in times of deep disruption as we have it right now. This will be the most important thing of the festival. Showcasing and also supporting, furthering the role of art not only as a way of resistance against this development, which is super important, but also as a way of opening up the sky, opening up fantasies, being grossly speculative if necessary, and being not afraid to develop future scenarios that are not going according to the mainstream of our anxieties and of panic. And one project will be very important in this. So because we also have 80 years of the end of World War II. And of course, World War II, in particular, the situation in the concentration camps was a very important and very difficult time for artists to work as. And we are going to stage the Kaiser of Atlantis, the Emperor of Atlantis, which is an opera that Victor Ullmann and Peter King developed in the ghetto Theresienstadt, while they were imprisoned a few months before they were deported to Auschwitz to be killed by the Nazis. And to see that artistic work in this period of time has not only been an issue of just relieving the pain, keeping up, of course, the idea that humanity and culture is possible even in the most difficult times, but it's also a sign that artistic quality, artistic merit, artistic challenges can exist and can fight through basically in every situation of our life. So with this, I think the Festival 2025 will be another wonderful celebration of the power of art, the importance of art, the responsibility of art to connect, as Ars Electronica says since '79, to connect art, technology, and society. And without any further ado, and I think 10 minutes over time, I hand over now to the people who are doing the real job, who are preparing the Festival 2025. Veronika, please go on.
Thank you so much, Gerfried. Also a warm welcome from my side to the first press release and information on Ars Electronica 2025. It will be my pleasure today to give you also some first provisional insights into the exciting festival program. Provisional because we want to keep the excitement, of course, up to August for the full program release, but also because our team is currently working behind the scenes on reviewing thousands of submissions from all over the world and also fixing many program details together with partners So today we are not going to present any specific artistic projects, but give you really a fantastic overview of what the program will keep up for you. One thing is definitely already for sure and certain at that stage. The wonderful city of Linz will be, of course, again, the magnificent stage for the world's most renowned festival on art, technology, and society. We are having this festival this year from September 3rd to September 7th, so book please already the dates and also your accommodation. 8 central locations are already confirmed, and I'm coming straight to the one question I've been asked already so many times already during the last festival edition and also in between. Yes, we are going back to both cities. We have again the wonderful opportunity of staging the festival in this magnificent and really iconic festival venue, which will be the heart and the center of the festival again. In addition, we are also opening the festival at the Cathedral in Linz. We are coming back to the Lentos Art Museum in the city center, next also to the Art University in Linz, which will be the main center again for the campus exhibition. Then one of the festival locations will be also the Atelierhaus Salzamt, hosting the exhibition of Campus Hagenberg. And of course, we are also centering a program here in the Ars Electronica Center, in our neighborhood, also in the Stadtwerkstatt and the Anton Bruckner Private University. And that's not all. We're currently also working with other partners on new exciting locations, including, of course, again, many associated festival venues, associated because they are not part of the official festival program, but they're contributing, of course, also with the big diversity, the cultural diversity coming from Linz in particular, also the independent scene. So we're very much looking actually forward of here creating again a stage in the city center, bringing together the cultural diversity, the cultural programs, and the people here in the city. The festival itself has again a mix of different formats prepared for you, from conferences, lectures, keynotes, panels, over exhibitions, and many events, concerts and performances, of course. And we are going a bit into the details today. I'm kicking off with the events and concerts program, which will start already on Tuesday, September 2nd. So please arrive already on the Tuesday of the festival week with the pre-opening walk. Here you have the fantastic chance of getting behind the scenes insights into some of the most exciting exhibitions, and of course also the chance again to actually speak directly to several of our curators and artists. On Wednesday, September 3rd, we are done celebrating the big opening of Ars Electronica in the beautiful setting of the main cathedral in Linz, with a highlight, the Waltz Symphony from our dear colleagues of the Ars Electronica Future Lab on the occasion of the 200th birthday of Johann Strauss, and in collaboration also with the Johann Strauss 2025 Vienna organization. The world-famous waltzes by the Viennese Waltz King were incorporated into a research project at the nexus of artificial intelligence and creativity. And here currently composition music students from 4 renowned universities are working on the work and music legacy of Johann Strauss, and also by this creating entirely new sound compositions, music works, but also reflecting on the big questions that AI rise in our world. The musicians of the Bruckner Orchestra Linz will then bring this unique symbiosis between history, between also music and tradition and the future to life. Another highlight again will be on Thursday, September 4th, the Ars Electronica Award Ceremony in Design Center Linz. Here we're celebrating again the big winners of the Ars Electronica, the Starts Prize Africa, and the European Union Prize for Citizen Science. On September 5th, the Friday of the festival, things will get particularly impressive by the big concert night Gerfried already introduced at the beginning. And whoever has energy left for that night or up to the morning hours can also attend the Ars Electronica Nightline with DJ sets and fantastic performances. The Saturday of the festival will once again be dedicated to all types of sounds and musics, in particular coming from the Sonic Saturday of the Anton Bruckner Private University, and also a fantastic music performance in deep space, and follow it then by the big sound cloud along the Danube. And another highlight on Saturday will be composed by our dear colleagues of Ars Electronica Future Lab, who will once again open the doors of deep space, giving insights into the latest research projects within the Future Lab night. For example, also presenting outstanding results from the XR project Share Space. And for the next highlights of the program, I would hand over to Christl.
Thank you very much. Yes, we will continue having a sneak peek into the Ars Electronica exhibitions program, which is going to be, again, a vast array of various exhibitions and, of course, partnerships, because today we're not yet announcing the names of the artists presented at the festival, but especially focusing on dropping some important names so that you are aware of which partners we'll be working with towards this edition. We'll start, of course, with the main exhibition of the festival, the Prix Ars Electronica exhibition, which once again will be displayed at the Lentos Contemporary Art Museum. It will showcase outstanding projects from the different categories of the Prix, the new animation art, artificial life and intelligence, and of course, digital music and sound art. At Post City, visitors will have again the possibility and the excitement to go deep down in the bunker and basement areas and to dive into this year's festival theme exhibition, looking especially at artistic projects where artists discuss their role and their and thematics when it comes to art in periods of radical change. Here we are also going to feature the results of our artist residencies in the frame of the European Digital Deal Program with partners such as Onasistegi or the Vach Future Lab, but of course also Ars Electronica. A key role will be played by the STARTS initiative from the European Commission. The STARTS Prize exhibition will be once again staged in Post City in the first floor, giving you an insight into collaborative projects at the nexus of art, science, but especially also industry, with partners such as the Salzburger Festspiele or the High Performance Computing Center in Stuttgart. The STARTS Prize Africa is another award and therefore an exhibition out of the STARTS ecosystem. And in addition, we are going to present the winners of the European Union Prize for Citizen Science, which are, of course, two highlight examples when it comes to talking and presenting Europeans' innovative power. Also on display in Post City will be the winners of the State of the Artist and the Award of Digital Humanity. Both programs are supported by the Austrian Foreign Ministry and, of course, Ars Electronica. From Latin America, we once again welcome exciting new projects. For once, the award-winning works from the CIFO and Ars Electronica Award. The artists are currently working on developing those projects. And once again, contributions from our long-term partner, Chile, artistic projects that are selected in collaboration with the Chilean Ministry of Culture and Foreign Affairs. Going back to Linz and our partners here, we are excited to be again working together with our longtime partner, the Linz Institute of Technology, based at the JKU. And in this collaboration, we will present again 7 unique projects developed by JKU researchers in collaboration with artists, showing and discussing innovative approaches when it comes to scientific topics. This renewed partnership emphasizes how important long-term collaborations between Ars Electronica are and the value of a continuous exchange when it comes to art and science. Another long-term partner is, of course, the University of Art and Design Linz. They have been part of the festival for over more than 2 decades and will once again provide a platform for artistic projects coming out of their many different departments, as well as contributions from the students from the international partner universities. Veronika mentioned already, so both venues, both buildings of the Art University are going to be part of the festival, and the campus exhibition will also extend to Post City once again. We can already announce the special featured university of this year's festival, who will be presenting their project at Splace, the gallery on Main Square. And it is the National Academy of Art, Sofia, in Bulgaria. At this point, we're not going to announce yet any additional university partners because we actually have an open call that is ongoing at the moment due to the high interest of universities around the world and on the other side, our spatial limitations. This applies also to the Ars Electronica Features exhibition, which highlights cultural and scientific institutions from our global network. We'll move forward to the conference program, starting here in Post City, once again a hub for talks, workshops, and panels. A major focus this year will be on educative topics. Together with the University College of Teachers Education in Upper Austria and the EU-funded project Critical Change Lab, we will explore topics around democracy, media literacy, and educational strategies in a 3-day program from Wednesday to Friday of the festival week. As part of the EQ project, we are partnering with the Ulu University of Applied Science, as well as the European Theatre Convention, and over 10 additional theatres within the European field to explore the intersection of AI and artistic creation, focusing on the topic of digital theatre. Topics include, for example, the use of AI in storytelling, but also, of course, in audience engagement, in production, but as well as in organizational matters such as ticketing. The start day of this year's festival, actually it's going to be a Thursday within the festival week, will again provide a space for dialogue between art, technology, and industry, and to especially discuss the digital sovereignty of Europe. Gerfried already dove into that topic a bit before. Another special topic that we need to address within this festival is the 30th year of the Austrian European Union membership. And we are planning a special event in collaboration with the Federal Ministry of Arts, Culture, the Civil Service and Sport to strengthen the role of culture, the role that culture plays in the European Union. In the spirit of the European cooperations, we're also launching a workshop series for cultural managers. The EU project Eccentric, in partnership with, for example, the European Festival Association, focuses on driving digital transformation within cultural organizations. Another highlight, and you see, we are continuing with highlights within the program, is the Citizen Science program within the European project Impetus, which emphasizes the role of young people and artists in shaping especially research processes. Now we move away from the Post City to the Ars Electronica Center, and from September 3rd until the 5th, we will showcase here the expanded art animation symposium, which will take place at Sky Loft and is co-curated by the University of Applied Sciences Upper Austria, the campus of Hagenberg. And what would be a festival without the festival inside it? You are all familiar with Create Your World. It will once again occupy a space in the major area of Post City, inviting young and young at heart explorers to experiment, to tinker, to present, and to discuss. One highlight will, of course, be again the exhibition of the winners from the U19 category. For the first time ever, we are going to award the Media Literacy Award, presented and honoring Austrian teachers for innovative classroom concepts. The award is jointly presented by the Federal Ministry of Education, Science and Research, Ars Electronica, as well as the Agency of Education and Internationalization. Another new project, which is somehow an overhead project directly relating to this year's topic, is the Pavilion Against Indifference, staged in Post City, as part of the project Flood the Zone with Courage.
This is a collaboration between Ars Electronica and the Circus of Knowledge at the JKU. This space, as well as the collaborations within this program, will spotlight democratic processes, new forms of protest, going against indifference in our society through collective interactions, workshops, live discussions, but especially artistic interventions within post-city as well as in public space. Last but not least, we need to talk about the deep space. Besides many interesting programs that we will staging there, we have, of course, again, a focus on cultural heritage. And that focus will this year present digital masterpieces from the National Gallery in London. Finally, an Ars Electronica Festival is, of course, not complete without also talking about our own ecosystem. Within this ecosystem, two main pillars, the Ars Electronica Future Lab as well as Ars Electronica Solutions, will be working together in order to create a space where they will be presenting their different approaches, their researches, their project, especially showcasing what they do, how and why. And the central question will, of course, be what kind of innovation do we want to drive forward, and for whom do we want to create value? With that, please, dear Veronika, continue with the remaining programs as we are.
Thank you so much. So you see, we are preparing hundreds of programs and events for you. Reason enough to really come to Linz from September 3rd to September 7th. A festival like this and this size would not be possible without so many partners. Behind the scenes, already at this point, more than 200 organizations from more than 40 countries in this world are actually working on the implementation of the festival. And here I really want to extend my biggest gratitude and a big, big thanks to all the partner organizations who we could not name all today, but are so vital in actually bringing this festival all together to life. A big thanks, of course, first and foremost, also to the city of Linz, without whose continuous support over really the many, many years since the very beginning, a festival of this size would definitely not be possible. A big support and a big thanks also to the European Commission, whose funding is substantial for so many of our projects, and in particular also year-long artistic residencies and commissions. Also a big thank you to the Federal Ministry for Arts, Culture, Public Services and Sports for their continuous support, as well as the state of Upper Austria. At this point, also, last but not least, a very, very big thanks to our fantastic team who is currently preparing all the details, the programs and projects, including also the upcoming announcements, which will keep you updated also about the exciting programs in the next month. In mid-May, we will present press information on the cultural heritage focus. At the end of May, the public information and announcement about the Ars Electronica opening. In June, we will announce the winners of the Starts Prize Africa, the European Union Prize for Citizen Science, and the Media Literacy Award. In early July, then finally, we will reveal the winners of the Prix Ars Electronica jury, and followed then in August by the big program details of the Ars Electronica 2025. In early September then, in a week of the festival already, we will finally offer also press tours through the main venues and exhibitions. With this, I very much dearly hope that you will come to Linz. We will see you during the festival. And for the final words, I would hand over back to Gerfried.
So the final word should be the final word. Thank you very much. In particular, I really thank Veronika Liebl and Christl Baur spearheading the team and the development of the festival. And I think just with this little, and really, it was just on the surface of what's really going on in program development. Just imagine how many artists are working on this, how many people from different areas are working on this. I think it's pretty clear that this year's festival, again, can be a wonderful experience, coming together and really reclaiming our sovereignty about the development of the future. Thank you and see you in Linz.